We are live. Hi, everyone.
Yay.
I'm going to give it a couple
Hi.
of seconds. We are live with Karen Bagley. I am so excited to have you back on. It's been a long time.
Do you feel like royalty? I love it.
You
My
are
royal
spoken
we.
about like royalty in our studio, to be fair.
You are.
Whenever we mention you, it's like the legend that is Karen Bagley.
You guys are so sweet. I love you. You give me my little like shot in the arm to have that, I'm a pretty confident person, but like it always makes me feel better, if I'm having, like I said, I've been sick. So having those days where you just feel like you're not together and y'all give me that little shot in the arm. I love it. I appreciate that so much.
No problem. Anytime. You just give us a ring and we will give you that little shot. So we had you on today today for you, tonight for us, to talk about the maternity industry at the moment in the community. Because it is a weird time.
It is a weird time. So, the interesting thing is that I want to say that I feel like it's been weird for at least from like 2023, maybe towards the end of 2022, but 2023 and this year has definitely been very, very weird. And what's funny, I mean, I guess funny is not necessarily the proper word, but in 2022, I remember going live in my Facebook maternity group. And I remember telling everybody, I was like, I feel a massive shift coming. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a good shift, if it's a bad shift. I feel a shift coming though. And sure enough, 2023 came. And while I'm kind of fortunate in the sense that because I speak and teach and because I do mentorships, I'm able to kind of get a bird's eye view of so many different businesses, whether it's maternity or, wedding or whatever. But uh, all the photographers right now are kind of having different struggles, not always necessarily the same struggle. So, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it seemed like it was always the same struggle. It was always I'm not making enough clients. I mean, I'm not making enough money per client. Now it's I'm not getting enough clients. They don't seem interested. Or if they come in, the sales are low. So it's all sorts of different issues. And I think a lot of that, I mean, there's so many things that are contributing to that, honestly, realistically speaking. But I think the biggest one in this year is definitely the shifts in the economy. I'm also, like I said, I'm a little bit fortunate in this area because I spent so long in my business trying to build my clientele to a degree and to a level that, should anything happen to the economy, they aren't necessarily the ones that are going to be affected. However, for me to get to grow that clientele, you really have to be on top of your marketing. Which, speaking of marketing, that's the other big issue. So, we all know that the inflation, everything is so expensive now. We know that we've been seeing it happen honestly since COVID began, really. And towards the end of when COVID kind of, well, not when it really went away because it's still around, but once it kind of started to somewhat go back to reality, back to normalcy, if you will, the prices of everything were like quadruple, if not like 10 times what they were.
I can't believe that we're still talking about how COVID is affecting our life, like
I
4 years
said
down the
that.
line.
I said that just
Like
yesterday.
this
I'm
is a
like,
really like niche thing, but in 2020, just before, like literally just before COVID hit, we came to America to Disney World, and then we came in again in 2023 again to Disney World, and the price difference in just things like bags of chips, like
I know.
just
It's astronomical.
astronomically different. I was like, I am not buying this bag of Cheetos because it is it's like so much more expensive. It was like
Absolutely.
Do you know what I couldn't get over the price
like
of?
$7.50 for a bag of chips.
We were walking through one of the stores when we were in WPPI, and I was looking at the books, like I'm a book fanatic, and I was just having a quick look to see what they had. I was like, how can people afford to read? How can people afford to buy these books? Like,
Well, because
madness.
Really random things.
My oldest daughter is like a book fanatic, and during COVID, we just went through a phase where we were like buying books, buying books, buying books. We couldn't keep like weekly was like, okay, you're gonna have to donate or give these, like, I don't know what we're gonna have to do, because she ran out of shelf space. She was going through books, and now anywhere that you go, you know, if you walk into Target, if you walk into just any like bookstore, like Barnes and Noble, it's insane. And I know for sure that, I know groceries is something that people talk about all the time. Just clothes, I mean, everything has gone
Everything.
up, everything. And the way that that affects business owners is, as soon as things start to get a little sticky around finances, they start looking at their business and they're like, where can I cut funds? Where can I retain some of the funds that I am spending as a business owner? And unfortunately, a lot of the time, the first thing to go is marketing. And that sucks, because marketing is the one thing that's really going to keep your business alive. And it's kind of a double-edged sword, though, because there's so many people out there who they kind of grasp the idea of marketing, but they don't really know exactly the inner workings of it. And they really probably need to invest in some help. But then that also comes with the challenge of, and photographers, specifically photographers, they're pretty bad about this. Photographers get sticker shock probably worse than any other industry I've ever seen. And I mean that in not necessarily the worst way, but in a truthful way. They have to understand that, you know, spending money on understanding how to do good marketing is what's going to pull your business through these really, really rough times that the economy is going through. So one of the and I noticed this not just now, but back when 2020, when COVID hit and everybody kind of was out of work for a little bit, the first thing that I saw, and mainly I saw this through just social media mainly, but I also saw it through classes that I was teaching at, through my students, my mentorees that I was working with. I was like, okay, well, how are you handling this financial strain? Well, I stopped working on my website. I stopped getting my SEO done on my website. I stopped paying for ads. I stopped this. No, 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 no.
It makes it so much harder to come back from, doesn't it? Like you struggle,
100%.
you're starting from zero.
You have to rebuild. It's no different than if you were just like a fresh photographer off the street. The only difference is that you have the skill level and the caliber to say, okay, I'm not, you know, a brand new photographer, but when it comes to marketing, if you even lose a few months, it sets you back a year.
We saw a massive decline. We couldn't get our head around the changes that they'd made on Facebook ads.
Yes.
And we were finding that we were putting
every time I opened it, it was different.
And we were putting ads out, and it just wasn't reaching the people that we needed it to reach. And we were like banging our head against the wall. So we gave up for a little, not gave up. We were like, right, we need to take a step away, have a think about what we're doing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then come back in. And you know, in that bit of time where we didn't have any ad running, it was crickets.
And you almost feel like you have to like take a step back and be like, what am I doing? Who am I as an artist? Is it my work? I mean, because, you know, creatives are so crucial on themselves. They are the most critical on themselves than anybody else is. So when you start hearing crickets, you start questioning, is it my prices? Is it my work? Is it this? Is it this? Is it this? And that's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, we should always be working to better our craft always. That's never going to end. But if we start looking at ourselves inwardly and trying to, you know, kind of critique and cut down, well, it's because I'm not a good business owner. It's because I'm charging too much. My work isn't worth this. Then you're really
it's just a slippery slope.
It's a very slippery slope. So like, you know, back in 2020.
We're quite, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
So we are quite lucky, same as you really, that you were Andrew. One of us will go, right, this is not working, let's take a step back, and we just will clear a day and go, let's go to the drawing board, let's work out what's working, what's not. Let's just work out what can we be doing, what can we change ourselves that'll work, and then what can we put to other people that will. And so we're quite lucky in that way that a lot of photographers work on their own, and it's hard to see that when you're in it.
So I don't even know if lucky is the proper term, because I think it's just finding a good teammate. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of photographers out there who are solo, but even if they are solo, they need to understand that they have to have some sort of a teammate, whether that's somebody who's specifically paid to work on those ads, and you have to take time to get to know them. So, it's kind of like, well, like you said, like with Andrew and I, we make a phenomenal team. He's the tech guy. I mean, I'm pretty techie, but I don't go near as deep as he does. I'm definitely more of like the people talking, the photographing. I've got my little creative mindset.
You're the Christie of the group.
Yeah, I'm about that money. Like I need to make my money. You know what I'm saying?
You're definitely
So,
the Christie of the group.
Yeah, I'm definitely Andrew.
I'm okay with that. So, well, you need both. You really need both.
Yeah.
And if you don't have both, and I think that that's one of the biggest struggles, that one of the classes that I talked about, at the summit, that happened in July, I told people you have to train yourself to be both. Now, you don't have to be an expert on everything, because you can't. You can't be an expert on everything.
No.
But you have to educate yourself enough to be able to find yourself a partner. Does that mean that they're going to be sharing in your business, and does it have to be another photographer? No. It just needs to be somebody who can handle that. You can outsource things that you really can't grasp to them. You've got to have a team of some sort. And in the beginning, if you can't really afford one, outsource it for just a little while. Like, get somebody to come in and do some SEO work, get somebody to come in and teach you how to run ads until you are able to just pay somebody to do them. You've got to have both, because otherwise it's just not going to work. And I think photographers, I think it frustrates them to hear that, because it feels kind of dark and dreary for me to say you need to have both. And if you don't have both, you have to figure out how to be both, or
It's
figure out
hard to
how
give
to
that
pay.
control over as well, isn't it? Like, I
Yeah,
hate
oh,
giving control to somebody else.
extremely hard. And I've noticed too that with women, it tends to be even more difficult than it is with men. And it's not that men are just like, oh, I want to get rid of it. I want to get rid of it. Because men have that control too. I mean, it's their business, it's their babies. But women, for some reason, I don't know what it is. But I've, after all these years of been teaching, working with people, I've been keeping little tally marks of like, okay, he didn't have a problem at all outsourcing. Women, they grab onto these tasks and they like put a death grip on them, and to try to pry it out of their hands. I'm like, you've got to let it go. You have to let it go, because if you can't, and I think people automatically think too that, it's got to be something like I have to let go of my editing, or I have to let go of my phone calls. No, it could also be just letting go of like household things. If you have kids, like getting some help with your children, having somebody do the lawn. It doesn't always have to be, outsourcing in the sense that, you need somebody to come in and edit for you. If you have, which I have not met anyone yet. No, I take that back. I have one student who pretty much all across the board, she handles her ads, she handles like all of her clients by herself. As a matter of fact, she only has assistants when she goes on like a newborn session, and she just started photographing underwater. But she's probably one of the very few people that I've ever met in my life that is able to kind of handle all of it, and is able to retain the information that she learns from, you know, Google, SEO, social media algorithms. Although I do have to say she doesn't post regularly on social media, so that's probably one of the areas that she could use some help in. But my point in telling you that is that people have to understand you aren't going to be able to do it all at all. You're not going to be able to handle every single task that you're supposed to have as a business owner at all. And I don't mean that to be dark and dreary, like you're going to fail. That's not what I'm saying it for. I would so much rather business owners know the hurdles, know the stresses that are coming their way, so that they are able to clear them when it comes up, than to be constantly told, well, you can do it if you work hard enough. That's not enough. There's so
No.
many photographers and artists out there who are working themselves to death to try to reach their level of success. And it has nothing to do with how hard you work. I mean, I say take that with a grain of salt, because you do obviously
Yeah.
have to work hard. But if
But
you're
there's never
working,
enough hours in a day. It doesn't matter how hard you work. You
exactly,
need somebody
exactly.
else to
You
take the
have,
things that maybe you're not the best at.
yes, you have to. Otherwise, it's just you're going to run yourself into the ground. You really are. So, it's interesting that you said that, because I'm actually almost exact same boat as you guys. Well, last year was when I noticed it, with Facebook ads, was that I just was not able to hit my target demographic. And like I said, it's a catch-22 with me because my clients are very large paying clients. So I don't photograph any more than 35 clients a year. That's it. Boom. But I pull in very large numbers from them. So, we're talking about 10, 15, 20, $30,000 sales from these clients. I actually had one client recently, so I'm in the process of designing a 25-foot wall. And that was almost $100,000 of a sale.
Nice.
So yeah, but the thing is, what people don't tell you about having those clients is that those are kind of like the 1% of America. It is very, very hard, and it is very, very rare to get into that demographic. I had someone write me and they were like, if I just had one of your clients, I'd be set for the year. And I was like, it doesn't work that way. It took me years to build up this brand. But then the problem with that is that your old techniques of marketing, so Facebook, Instagram, even Google ads, they're just not working. They're not hitting the demographic. So then you have to I had to totally take a step back and be like, how am I going to reach these people? Because the one thing about the 1%, the one percenters who have just no budget, they're able to spend whatever they want. They live in $30 million homes. The one thing about them is that they're not on social media. And I know that that's kind of because everyone's like, well, Karen, you're the social media queen. The way that people find me through social media is because a friend of a friend of a friend told them that, oh my God, this is who you need to go to. And you know where they go? They go to Google and they pull me up there. So that's why I still stay on social media. But the reality is those clients aren't there. So when you start seeing that you're not getting, bookings or leads from the old ways of marketing, which it doesn't help that Facebook changes the damn, it's not
Like
really a
every
questionnaire,
single
but
day.
literally. And I don't know if you guys remember, do you remember, it was probably maybe 3 years ago, it might have only been 2 years ago, we used to be able to enter household income. Do you remember that?
So
And
we were never able to do that in the UK. It was only ever the
oh my
US,
gosh.
the UK wasn't
Yeah.
able to because of the privacy laws over here.
Yes, so they stopped that here in the US, which makes perfect sense because that does seem like a little bit of an invasion of
Very
privacy.
weird.
But then they got even more specific, and we used to be able to put in the phone, the cell phone carrier that they had, and kind of be
Yeah,
able to
we could not
target
do
it
any of
that
that.
way. Yeah, well, I know, and I knew that because of the people that I mentored that were out of the country. So I was like, man, we kind of have it. We're kind of lucky, but obviously somebody caught on to.
I think we might have talked about it in our mentorship.
Yeah, I think we did.
Oh, it's
I remember
possible.
you telling us, yeah.
Yeah,
And we were
Yeah, that blew my mind
flabbergasted
that you're
that
able
you,
to.
yeah.
well, I mean,
Like,
the reality is I try to think of it as okay, is this an invasion of privacy, or is this just general knowledge? And I'm like, well, would I be upset if I got an ad because I made a certain amount of money? Well, no, not really. So I'm like, I don't quite understand how that's an event, but I get it too, because it's not like I
But
would
also,
want
how do they
everybody just.
know?
They probably base it off of where your home is, how much the homes cost.
Okay.
I seriously doubt that they're getting your W-2s or your, and I mean, I seriously doubt that that's the case. But either way, somebody somewhere was like, this is an invasion of privacy, so they
Yeah.
shut it down.
it's to the point now that when we put an ad out, we're like, we want to aim it at women. It's like, no, we're going to show it to 90% men. We're like, we can't even get it to be seen by women.
65-year-old men.
Yeah,
That,
65
they don't want to
men.
see your adverts.
Yes. So I completely stopped running ads in 2023, which honestly, it was okay, because when you realize that you're spinning your wheels, it's not worth continuing to pour into that
No.
area of marketing anymore. So I went back to SEO, because the one thing that you can almost always count on is Google being able to, if you have somebody searching, best maternity photographer, they'll be able to pull you up. So I went back to just kind of tweaking my website, making sure that I was popping up number one. And if I was number two, was there anything I could do about it? Was there anything I could change? Updating things, things like that. But then in 2023, after I had stopped ads, it was so funny because probably about 2 months after that, my ads, now granted, I've always gotten ads for the stores that I like Fendi, Dior. I've always gotten those ads, but as soon as I stopped running my ads, about 2, maybe 3 months later, I started getting ads for Mercedes, and I'm not even really a car person. I started getting like Maserati, just high-end cars. So I'm like, they clearly have there's some sort of way to target the correct
Yeah.
audience. I just have to kind of finagle and figure it out. So to this day, the only thing that's held me back from pushing Facebook ads is that even before I stopped running ads, I was realizing that the people who were finding me from Facebook just weren't my ideal client. And when you see that kind of repetitively, then that's a pretty good sign that either something needs to be kind of stopped and readjusted, or you are the targeting is just not working. Like you really need to kind of, and we fooled around with it for almost the entire year. It was towards, actually I think it might have been like August of last year that we stopped running ads, and then around the December time, well, it might have actually been the closer to November, when I started seeing other like Hermes ads and things like that. And it's funny because a lot of people say, you don't see any designer ads on Facebook or on Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I do see them, but it's just because their targeting is on point. So that was kind of like my little eye opener, that I was like, don't completely put it away just yet. Let's see if we can just kind of finagle things a little bit to see if we can get the
Yeah.
targeting a little bit better. But as far as the economy is going now too, if you don't have a solid marketing strategy, and I'm using the word strategy because I want it to be very broad right now, because like I said, that's one of the first things that people try to cut when finances start getting tight, and they're like, what can I cut, what can I cut? They think that their referrals or their past clients is what's going to pull them through hard times. That's not the case. I don't care that, even for me, I don't care how phenomenal your clients are. I don't care how much money they're spending with you. I do not care. You have to continue marketing, and free forms of marketing. So social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, that's not enough anymore. So, 5, 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago, Instagram and Facebook were phenomenal tools to use that were free forms of marketing. You would actually be able to pull lots of clients in just from posting, on those platforms. Now, not only is it very difficult
Dead.
to grow, or yeah, it's very difficult to grow organically, just to get a decent following on these platforms, but not only that, it's very, very rare to have somebody actually land on your website just from
Mm.
posting. It's very, very rare for that to happen. And that's not just with me, that's with just about every business owner that I've spoken with over the last year and a half, 2 years technically. So you have to have a strategy. Like what are you, and this is even going deeper to, what is your goal as a photographer and as a business? What do you want to do? And because, again, that's kind of going back to, I had somebody reach out to me once, and they were like, if I just had one of your clients for the year, I'd be set. Again, it doesn't work that way. I wish it did, because then everybody would do okay. But no, you have to have some sort of a marketing strategy, and you have to be hitting all angles. Otherwise, you're not going to have any sort of direction on where you want to go, which goes back to, what kind of goals do you have set for yourself as a business? So for me, I obviously want to do very high paying jobs. So like I've never really had a goal set for myself that I wanted to photograph for like a magazine. I wouldn't turn it down. Like if a celebrity became pregnant and they were like, we want you to do a spread for Vogue, or expecting mom, whatever. I
Oh,
wouldn't
go on then.
necessarily yeah, I wouldn't turn it down, but that's not my goal. That's not my goal at all.
No.
I want to decorate people's homes, and I want to do like their life in their home. And that's where I make those large, 30, 40, 50, $70,000 sales, because they are decorating, 17 foot, 20 foot. That's my goal. So when you have that goal, it makes it a little bit easier to know who the heck you're targeting to. Now, some people think very narrow mindedly. They say, well, I just want to make enough money to pay my bills. That's not good enough, because if you're just making enough money to pay your bills, what the heck are you going to do when your car gets a flat tire? You're going to have to either go into your savings, which, if you're just making enough money to pay your bills, are you really even able to set money aside for savings? Probably not. So you have to think bigger than that. And then you also have to think, well, where is my job going? When do you want to retire? What kind of work do you want to do? So my ultimate goal, because, and this is something that I've been beginning and starting to work on over the last, I'd say probably 6 or 7 months. I want to eventually have my own art gallery for my underwater work. And I want to be semi-retired by the time I'm 45. Right now, I am on track to semi-retire by the time I'm 42. I turned 36 this July. And so having that clear idea, now I will tell you, trying to get into selling, wall art is an entirely different genre, but I'm very specific with my goals, because if you don't have a specific goal, you're going to end up working yourself to death for forever. So how that all kind of comes back into your marketing strategy is you need to be very aware of what your purpose is. You need to be very aware of what type of clients are. Do you want to be volume? Because I know so many photographers who make a phenomenal living doing volume portraits. And what I mean by volume is not that they're photographing, 200 people a year, but they're photographing, their sessions are maybe an hour and a half. They have all of the, wardrobe set. Maybe it's a boudoir photographer, maybe it's a maternity, maybe it's newborn. They're able to kind of get them in and out. And it's not really, so it's not on what I do where I'm like kind of customizing the wardrobes for my moms. It's not that, but they have everything that they need. They're ready to go. And their average sale is maybe 3,500, 2,500, but they are doing quite a few of them because it's just like clockwork. It's just become, how they function, and they have it all just down pat, and it's easy. Well, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's, it's a schedule.
It seems
it's a
so
rhythm
exhausting, though, doesn't it? It seems so
It does
exhausting
to
when I speak
me.
to those photographers.
Yeah, it
I
does
love,
to me, because that's not my goals.
no, I love it that we shoot less people and we're able to spend time with them, and we're able to build a relationship, and they have an experience. And I love that side of our business.
And
But there's crowds for everyone, isn't it? So
right. So that's what I'm saying. And for me, because many years ago, I was like, why would anybody want to photograph volume? Like, why? But then I had to kind of stop myself and realize, because we find joy in different aspects of our job, of our career. So mine is definitely the relationship that I build and the details that I'm able to dive into to be able to customize everything for them to immaculate levels. I love being able to decorate. So one of my talents is I can walk into a room. If I see a 5-foot wall, a 10-foot wall, a 15-foot wall, I can immediately design exactly how many prints I would put there, what design would look good. Is it going to be tiered? Is it going to be a straight, perfect lines? What is it that, I see? And I can walk into a room and I can tell people exactly what I would put there. And I've thought that was kind of like a normal thing for photographers, but it's really not, because some people are like, I don't want to deal with clients that much. I don't want to have to measure and, try to figure out sizes and shapes to go on their wall. And so when I heard that, I was like, oh, you know what? I kind of just got stuck in my own way of doing business. And I was like, you're right. You're 100% right. Not everybody is going to want to do those things. I love having client appointments. I love having them come to me. I love going to them if they want me to. I love that. I love providing a very, very luxurious experience, which, again, not that, photographers who are more volume aren't providing a luxury experience, but it's not quite the same. But that's okay. That's okay. You just have to
this
kind of
summer
know.
we've started doing baby showers this summer, and like curating baby showers for our customers. Oh my God, it has been the loveliest experience, where we walk in and like we made a flower arch going around like our artwork in their maternity session in the baby shower. Oh my God, it's phenomenal. And it was just so lovely being a part of those baby showers.
Do you have pictures of that? I would love to see them.
There's a video on our channel.
Oh my gosh. Noted and noted. I will. How long ago was it?
Was it last month or the month before we put it up, Christy? I'll send you a link. It's fine. I will send you a link or some photos later.
It's a fairly recent video, I think, isn't it? Because it was a little while ago that the actual baby shower was, but the video was
as long. So it's only in the last couple of weeks.
I love that.
But
It's
yeah,
almost
but
like kind of being, it's like kind of being a party planner and interior designer, all kind of balled up into creating art. And
and
for
nobody else in our
me,
area is doing that at the moment. So it's been lovely to be
exactly.
able to do that.
Exactly. And I think but see, that's the key right there, is knowing your demographic. So many people right now are scrambling, and it's because they really don't know who their client is or what their demographic
No.
is. They know what they like, but they're like, I don't know who this appeals to. And that becomes a big problem when you try to come up with any form of marketing, a marketing strategy. It's just like you're kind of like, I've used this illustration a billion and one times, but I'm going to keep using it because it fits. It's like blindfolding yourself and trying to throw a dart down a dark hallway and hit a target. It's like you never, I mean, it's not going to work. So, and people are very restrictive in their own mind. So they look to other photographers and they're like, okay, this person must be making money, so I'm going to implement what they're doing into my work. And I tell photographers, I tell artists, really, not even just photographers, I tell artists all the time, stop it. Put blinders on, focus on who you are and what you want to create. And I've used this analogy too. I haven't seen them in a long time, but there was a photographer who specifically photographed dogs jumping in a pool, grabbing a ball. Do y'all remember that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. There is somebody out there who is going to want your services. You have to focus on who you are, what artwork you want to create, and then you can allow yourself to market to those clients so that they can find you. And people just they kind of lose sight of that. So I'm constantly trying
This
to
sounds really
remind.
big-headed. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. So this sounds really big-headed, but when we entered a competition and awards, which we don't usually do, but we did it because it was the first year it was running, recently, a couple of months back, and we got finalised. There was only 20 finalists, I think, that got through to the actual awards night, and 3 of our 4 images that we submitted got through. We didn't win, but I knew we weren't going to win because the images that got through were all the same.
Yeah, they were.
Our feedback, so we went to the live judging, so we could hear our feedback and hear what everyone had to say, which I hated, by the way. It was like torture. But our feedback was, this is so different from maternity. This is so bold. This is not what you usually see. And then they were like, oh yeah, but if you had done this, then you would have scored really high, but you didn't. So, and it was really nitpicky things. And then the people that won, or some that came higher, were the same thing you've seen 1,000 times. And I mean, traditional, but and they were like, oh, the makeup on her face doesn't match her neck. You could have, but I'm going to score you really high. I'm like, the face doesn't match the neck.
So,
but they were all really traditional. They were same. So they played it safe. But all our feedback, I was like, well, I'm going to take that because that's what we want to do. We want to be different. We want to be bold.
What was really nice was there were some people sat behind us, and obviously they didn't know that was ours that came up, and it was, oh my God, that's good, isn't it? Oh my God, that's so different. Oh, and they were all making these comments, and me and it were nudging each other, oh.
I love that. So first of all, I have numerous things I want to say about this. First of all, it's not big-headed of you to brag on your work. It's not big-headed of you to brag on anything that you've done. You ladies work extremely hard. And that's something else that I try to always remind creatives. You've got to have a level of confidence in your work. You have to have a level of confidence in yourself. You have to have a level of confidence. Brag on yourself. It's okay. If there's anybody who's like, whatever, they're just upset. They wish that they had your confidence level. They wish they were where you were. And it comes from a place of jealousy. And I mean, we're not here, I don't want to purposely cause, I know you guys don't want to purposely cause anybody to be jealous, but the reality is that's probably why a lot of clients book you, is because they're like, she acts like she's the best. She knows she's the best. They are a phenomenal team. I want to book them. Book them. So don't ever say, well, this sounds big headed. I don't care if your head can't fit through the doorway. I don't care. You guys work so hard and it shows in your work. So don't ever apologize for that ever. It makes me so happy to see you say good things about yourself and be proud of it. Like that makes me so happy.
I was so
Next
proud that we
thing that
got 3 of the 4 things out of 4
Yeah.
pages, 3 got finalized.
Yes, the next thing I want to say is that I'm doing this over here because it's like womp womp womp. These people that are, knocking points off of your images because goodness knows what, but then they choose to ignore how the skin color doesn't even match in another one, but because it's traditional. This is why I don't enter image competitions, print competitions. I don't do it anymore because
That's why we don't as well, to be fair, because
I
it's the
realized
same
that I
judges
had
over
to.
and over again.
Yeah, I realized that I almost had to dumb my creativity down to be able to fit into the category of winning. So, one of my images that got like a uh silver something at WPPI. Is it silver? Is that what they do? I don't even remember.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
it was silver because then they do gold and then they can do loan and all that other stuff. So it got silver. It was 1 point away from gold, and what it was that she just had like a singular hair on her forehead that they didn't like, and they were like, if you remove that, and they weren't crazy about the negative space. They were like, crop it in a little tighter and remove that hair. It'll win gold or possibly do a loan. It was the most simplistic of images. It was very high key, white. She had orchids in her hair. It was one of my stunning Asian moms, and she had long, beautiful hair. It was a semi nude. Her hair was covering her right breast, and then her other arm was covering her other breast, and her hair was down here, and it had orchids kind of trailing down. Baby bump was out, and then she had a white skirt. It was just very simple, though. I mean, it was of my images that I love that I've taken. Is it my favorite? No. Like it's a beautiful portrait, but to me, anyone could take it. And so when they were scoring me on that, I was like, oh, okay, I felt like it was just, I had to dumb my creativity level down to feel like I
So
could fit in with these.
the one that one of them that got through was in the Venetian when we were in WPPI.
I was literally about to say this.
So the original comments were, "This is so." What did he say, Christy? It wasn't stunning. It was
striking, or
it was striking. This is so striking.
Yeah.
My only criticism is when you're taking photos in this architecture, because we did a Karen Bagley special. We gone low and we had all of the architecture in.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite bit about it. It was like, when you take photos of architecture, don't have it so overwhelming. I was like, but it was about where she was. That was literally the point of the photo, was that she looked epic in this massive location. Oh, I'm sorry.
There was another comment.
Did that person judging even photograph maternity portraiture? No. Exactly.
But there was another comment of the same judge on the category before where they'd said, you need to get lower, you're up too high. And I was like, well,
you're missing all the architecture.
Too high.
I was like, oh.
Yeah, you're missing all the architecture. And then they told us we were down too low, and the architect, I was like, oh, it's not like she's small in the background. She's right in the front, she's the main focus, but it's still dramatic behind her. And we were like, I don't feel like we could have won in this at all.
The architecture probably had beautiful leading lines right to her.
Yeah.
So it's like, this is, and again, some of it is political, but a lot of it is they're just kind of pulling shit out of their ass, really.
Yeah.
And, I'll be very blunt about it.
I mean, this is terrible.
Oh my God. I do remember that one. Oh, chef's kiss. Chef's kiss. See, that would be printed. That right there would be printed as like a huge 30 by 50 in this grand hallway staircase. You know what I'm saying? Like I can see where that would go. And that's, again, another thing just for photographers to realize is like, are you photographing to win some awards, or are you photographing to make some money? Like which one is it going to be? Because is there really anything wrong with either or? Well, no, not really. Because if you are photographing just to win awards, you're obviously going to get known in the photography industry pretty quickly. But if you are photographing to make money, you may not necessarily be so popular with the photographers, but you'll be making money this way with your clients. So you really just, it all kind of boils down to what is it that you want to do, which again, kind of goes back to the goals. So like for me, I know that everyone, it's on their list to become like a master portrait photographer, which is done through PPA or imaging. I have no desire to do that. I have no desire to get a degree from a company that's been established since 1940, that's judged by the same people who don't even photograph in my category. And I just, it's not something that's my goal. So like, no hate to anybody who has that goal, but I don't have it. So I'm gonna stick to my stuff over here. And the reality is, like, has any client ever asked me, what awards have you won? I'm not going to book you if you haven't won awards. No, they don't give a shit about that. They're not, the people who are wondering if you've won awards are always other photographers. They're
Yeah.
always the ones who are like, what are your credentials? I need to know your credentials. Don't worry about my credentials. I make green. That's my award is green bills. That's what I have. So if you want to go by those credentials, then we're good. If you want to talk about awards, I don't have very many. So
do you know what I loved? Was it Natasha Ince that made herself an award?
Yeah. She they don't like my style. Natasha Ince.
Oh,
you'll love her. I'll certainly do.
Actually, no, I do know her.
Yeah, thought you might.
I feel like
she would
now,
have.
right?
Oh, maybe.
Sorry?
I think she's singing. I don't think she's photographing that much anymore.
Oh yeah, she is. Yeah, she's doing like wedding singing and stuff, isn't she? I think.
Yes, I think so. No, I love her because she's stunning and beautiful, and me and her have had conversations on numerous.
She's got a very distinct style, hasn't she?
Yeah, she does. She has very full hair, very full dresses, itty bitty mamas, like very, very I don't even want to say whimsical because it's not whimsical. It is kind of dreamlike though. Like a lot of hers is very dreamy. But I haven't. You guys made me think of her. I'll have to send her a message just to see how she's doing.
We went to see one of our talks, didn't we, Christy, in the Newborn show or something. I think it's the Newborn show.
Yeah.
And she was saying how she very rarely enters into these competitions because, her pride can't take it. The fact that, like, and she's like, so I made my own award because I'm making money. So that's
she
me.
Did.
And she went and got an actual
Good
award
for her.
made.
Good for her.
And I love that.
Yeah, good for her. I mean, the reality is, like I said, and with me, it's not even necessarily so much a pride thing because I do try to, I think it can be a beneficial way to learn about your craft, but it's hit or miss. I mean, because like you said, they'll bring out one point with your image, but then on the other one, completely ignore it. That's in a totally different category. It just doesn't really make sense. But if they have corrective criticism, I normally can take it. It's when it starts becoming like where it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like,
it's like they were looking for something to be wrong. Because they didn't want to score us high enough because it wasn't the right style.
And
we did it a few years ago, and we
paid.
We paid for feedback, didn't we, from one of the judges in something that we'd entered because we wanted to know why we weren't getting anywhere with it. And it was
you've liquefied the silk too much. I said I haven't liquefied it. Oh, okay then. And I can't remember the rest.
I know, and that was what it was. Oh yeah, you've liquefied because we threw the silk out, so we had a nice big coming up behind her. And you've liquefied that silk too much, and she hadn't even liquefied it. Like that was that was if she wanted to know, that was me behind the silk throwing it and ducking, so you couldn't see me. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. It's normally people who don't ever photograph in that genre or even remotely close to that style that want to give you bits of information to help you, and it's not helpful because you're like, I didn't even do that. They did the same thing to me, but they did it at WPPI with one of my images. I had entered it in just the digital portion, and they were like, no. They gave me a couple of pointers to like fix something, and they were like, we want to see this in print it out. So of course, I spent like, a few $100 getting them matted and sending them in. They moved it from the maternity category into a composite category. It wasn't even a composite. And I went to the head honcho. I went to Melissa Gioni. And I was like, I need you to tell me why they said that this was a composite dress. And she was like, did you add more of the dress on this side? And I said, no. She was like, did you extend the background? And I said, there was a small corner because, you know, in my studio, I have a white sink wall and a black sink wall. And if I step back, I'm on occasion, I'll get a little sliver of like the white or the black. And I was like, there was a little sliver there. I was like, but I didn't, you know, I just quickly removed it. It was probably just like a quick clone and a healing tool. It wasn't even like an extension or anything like that. And she was like, that must be why they moved it into a composite. And I said, but that's not a composite.
No.
Like what? I was so upset because I was like, y'all made me spend money to just move my image to a whole nother category.
If that was the case, everybody's would be in that category because nobody has a background that fills every edge. You've always got to have a bit of something filled in.
Exactly. And especially like, you know, with my studio, I have like 40-foot ceilings. So, you know, most people, like when they're photographed, they have normal ceilings in their studios that are maybe like 10 feet, maybe 12. But even then, the backdrop stand, you can see it. And I mean, even like when I'm using, because obviously the black and white, it goes up 40 feet. So I don't need to use a backdrop stand. But if I'm using a you know, canvas backdrop or something like that, I always have to correct the backdrop because if I'm trying to step back and get it, you know, more length to my subject, I'm going to get the top of the bars and, you know, whatever, I'm going to have to fix it. So I was so upset because they ended up scoring what was previously like an 89. They ended up rescoring it a 68, which was only because it was in the wrong category. And I'm like, well, yeah, that makes sense because it's not a composite. So I think that was probably the last time. That's probably been about, 3 or 4 years ago. That was the last time that I did anything because I'm like, it's just not you know, I have this thing where it's like the risk versus the reward, which it really wasn't a risk, but like, you know, investing money would be a risk to some people because it's not cheap. It's a few $100s to send in. I think you have to send in a minimum of like 3, maybe 4 images, I think, something like that. You got to get them matted and then they have to be, you know, perfectly. So it's a, you know, I think I want to say I spent maybe like $450, something like that. Ship it out there. And then, you know, so the reward was not learning enough about my image to try to correct the things that they thought were wrong with it. So the risk versus reward for me just isn't there. So I'm like, I'm out. I'm not going to be falling into this anymore. And then any other competition that I've ever entered or submitted something in, it was because the person who started the competition is like, hey, I would love for you to submit just so we can kind of get more people involved. Like it's not something I take too seriously, if that makes sense, but it's something I'm trying to encourage people to be like, and I have to say it's only people that I feel like are trying to do a very good job with the actual judging of these images. So like recently there was a one of the conferences that I spoke for reached out to me and they were like, hey, we want to have an underwater portion in our competition. And my first question to the host of that conference and to the host of this image competition was, are any of the judges underwater photographers? You know what he said? No.
No.
And I said, then I can't support this because if they don't have a clue as to what they're looking at or the work that goes into it, they shouldn't be judging it. It's pretty, like, to me, it's a pretty simple concept. You know what I mean? It's to me like a, you know, if somebody takes in a painting, like an oil painting, they're going to take it to somebody who deals in oil paintings to be able to appraise it, to tell you what's wrong with it, to tell you how to correct it. It should be the same with photography. Somewhere along the way, these big time people who have been in the industry for 800 years since the Ice Age decided that they were going to judge things a certain way, but there's not really there are rules, but not really. You can bend them, but not really. It's about the story, but not really. It's about the impact, but not really. And I'm just kind of like, if you're not going to help me better my craft, because like I said, we never want to stop working to better our craft. If you're not going to help me better my craft, then what am I doing here? Bye. I really don't give a crap about scores or goals or trophies. Because like you said, you could literally go to some like small town and make your own trophy. Shit, you could go on Google and just Google it in and be like, I'm number 1. And you can sit there and hold it. You know what I mean? It's kind of, it's a little bit
They're just
silly.
trying to put everyone in the same box and be like, everyone needs to fit.
Absolutely. And that hurts.
And we don't fit in that box.
That hurts people's creative ability. I mean, they're already, most creatives are already so in a box already, just trying to make their mark in this industry, that when they do things like that, it can really, really harm their creative ability if they're not strong enough to be like, yeah, no, I know it's a good image, you're just scoring it pretty shitty, so I'm done. It's very impactful on a lot of people. So yeah, I don't mess with those anymore.
We went off
done
on a
with
massive
something.
tangent.
We have,
Say that
yeah.
again. What
We've
did
gone
you
off
say?
on a massive We've gone off on a massive tangent about
I always
competitions.
do.
That was my fault.
I
Sorry.
always do. No, it's me, girl. I will talk about this forever. You know this. Sorry. Let's go
That's
back.
fine.
We were talking about.
I just wanted to get your thoughts on vendors at the moment, because we've had so many vendors close down in the UK.
And we're
I
so
know
sad because it's like
So Trendy
So
announced they're
Trendy?
closing. Yeah,
They are. They're
I don't think
closing.
they ship to the UK.
Actually, this month, I keep forgetting it's September. They are closing this month, and then Miesto. Are you familiar?
Yeah,
we
They're
absolutely
closing.
love Mistio.
we use all
We've-
of theirs. Like
Yeah.
we've worked with her before. Like she's sent us silks to do like videos and stuff for her.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
were gutted, absolutely gutted.
Yeah, same, because and I love both of the owners of those companies. So Valerie, I've known her from the moment that I began with business, and I love her so much because she always kept her customer service on point too. I mean, honestly, So Trendy and Miesto, they both were phenomenal businesses, but I loved them because what you couldn't get at So Trendy, Miesto had. So she had very much so more of the modern lines, the full sleeves and the very minimal skirts, and so I love that about her, and I'm absolutely devastated with you guys. But I also kind of saw it coming, because again, just if you, I mean, if and I really don't spend a ton of time on Facebook. I'll make my post for business on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, and then I kind of get off. But when I am on Facebook, and I really limit my time on there, because I do not think it's good to spend a lot of time scrolling on any platform of social media, because it just rots your brain. It really, really does. And before you know it, if you spend too much time there, you are suddenly comparing yourself to everybody else in the world. And then you start feeling really shitty about yourself. So it's like, instead of putting all that time into focusing on what everybody else is doing, focus on yourself. Go outside for a minute, and it's a hard habit to break. But just, I set limits on myself. My oldest daughter, she has a timer on her phone where she's not allowed to go past it. And it takes discipline, because it really does. It'll affect your mind. That's neither here nor there. Just a little side note. When I am on Facebook though, all I see is just, business struggling, what's going on, the economy, everything's expensive. I'm not booking people. We're closing our doors. So back when COVID hit, So Trendy, Valerie, the owner of So Trendy, I messaged her and I was like, hey, I know this is a really tough time. Is there anything I can do? And she released a pajama line. And I bought a couple pairs of pajamas from her. At that point in time, or right after that point in time, she started going to school for like criminal justice, I think. So I kind of saw it coming. It's still devastating, but I kind of saw it coming. I don't know that it's 100% due to the economy. I think it's also due to the fact that they are getting ripped off by AliExpress, Amazon.
Constant.
It is constant.
And the most gut-wrenching part about that is that they're stealing their photos from their website to use to sell their knockoff gowns, and it's just,
it's terrible. And the reality is if you were to try to fight that battle, because Amazon is a beast. Now you have AliExpress, which is becoming a beast as well. But Amazon was the first to really Amazon was the first to really start knocking things off and selling them. And the reality is, if you ever ordered anything from Amazon, because I did it purely for research purposes. And so I got the dress that was supposed to be the Angela that was from So Trendy. I got it in, and it was so cheap looking. I can't even go into it. It was so terrible that I was like, this just, now granted, it wasn't very expensive. It was like maybe $30. And when it came in, I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. But of course, you guys know I cut stuff up. So I was like, I'll just let it sit there. I used it, I think, underwater at one point in time as like a layered dress. But it was so cheap. It was terrible. And the problem is that when you have a company like So Trendy, Miesto, even Baby Props, really any company that's catered to photographers, you have to have a pretty serious team with you that has the ability to go up against these large corporations for stealing images. And then you also have your work cut out for you, because photographers don't always see the value in an expensive gown. So like the reality of it is, people started to kind of drift away from purchasing from Valerie and from Miesto. I don't know. I don't know why I'm saying yes. Valerie, So Trendy, Miesto, they started to kind of separate themselves. And if you're trying to go up against the photographers, you won't win. I mean, that's going to be like a losing battle. Not only do you have the rest of the world trying to steal your shit and sell it for a fraction of the cost, but you also have the industry that you're marketing to not valuing a more expensive gown and going with Amazon. So that's two hills that they're having to climb and they're having to battle. And I think for a while you have the energy to do it. And I think eventually they both just got tired and they're like, I'm not, because we all know running a business is hard work. We know it. We know it inside and out. And I think at a certain point in time, if you are continuously fighting, it's almost like being in an ocean in a rip current. If you're continuously fighting that, eventually you're going to get exhausted and you're just going to fall out. And I think part of that is the case with both of them, because they weren't just fighting the people, the big corporations stealing their designs. They were also fighting the actual industry who is supposed to be purchasing from them. If you're fighting both of those, that's an uphill battle that's just going to be very, very hard to overcome.
There's
So
even groups called like AliExpress photographers finds, and somebody will post a photo of a specific dress or from the actual page of the designer, and they go, "Can you give me a link if this is on AliExpress?" And then there's like just absolute thousands of comments going, "Yeah, I got this. This is the size I bought. This is how much it is."
Yeah.
And it's infuriating because if that's what you want, like if buy it from that designer.
If you know it's from that designer because
you've gone on their website, to get the image and then post.
The even the bigger issue there too is that like I said earlier, and this is where I'm kind of busting the chops of photographers, because they are the first to complain about prices of things. But when they have that energy brought to them from their clients, they complain about it. And I'm like, you can't have that energy and expect a different energy in return. That's not how it works. You have to value the products that you invest in the same way that you expect your clients to want to invest in you and value you. So
the thing is, when we tell our clients, this is how much is a Katharina, whatever, like
600, 700, $1,000
euro dress, couture handmade gown from Germany, they instantly like, oh my god, I feel like you put an AliExpress dress on, and they're like,
absolutely.
They don't want
and again, why this kind of goes back to the photographer is because they're looking for ways to cut corners. They want to produce amazing images, but they're also trying to do it in the price point that they are charging for their client. Now, their price point is more than likely set on the fact that they have seen another photographer doing this for this much. So they're trying to undercut them. And in doing so, they genuinely cannot afford the more expensive gowns. Now, I mean, again, it's not really a whole lot of shade to them because we all start from somewhere. In the beginning, I took a thread and needle and I hand sewed, hand stitched my own wardrobes for my clients. Now, up close, they look like a mess, but from far away, they were phenomenal. And that's kind of what I became known for, was these very different and unique wardrobes. And at that same time, Valerie was kind of So Trendy Accessories was kind of growing and getting bigger. And she had exactly what I needed. But in the beginning, I really couldn't afford it. But because I am a business owner, I realized that what I needed to do was charge more so that I could afford the better looking gowns. Because yes, people do absolutely 100% feel different. Their confidence level just goes through the roof when they are in something that is, you can tell, is just costly. It's designer. It's, from overseas. It's just an entirely
Yeah.
different experience. It just is.
And
So, I mean,
and
I
then when you say to
understand.
them, oh, sorry, when you say to
No,
a client, oh, we haven't got something of that style, or we haven't got anything like that, let me order it for you. We'll have it handmade. Like, blows their
absolutely.
mind every single time. Like,
Absolutely.
that's
Oh,
what you're paying for.
absolutely.
That's what your money's going towards. Like, why
That
wouldn't
is
we?
probably of my top two questions that I get from any potential clients. The first one is, do you actually have to swim? Are you actually in the water for your underwater sessions? Yes, obviously. But the second most popular question is, where do you get these wardrobes from? I saw this gown and it looked like it had 3D flowers on it. It did. I hand stitched that. I got that in. Like, if I can't order it, if I have some sort of specific vision or creative idea for you and my vendors can't make it, I will make it. But I mean, it's one of those things. That's one of the top two questions that I get is these wardrobes. So I mean, is it worth making the investment? It always has been, but people try to cut that corner because they're scared of raising their prices to
Yeah.
to in association with losing their clients. I understand the fear because like I said, I remember what it was like starting out. I remember making my own dresses, but I also remember thinking this takes a lot of time. As soon as I am able to afford to just buy something else, I will. And so I started charging more. People have to understand that if you are actually going to run a successful business, you cannot be afraid to change your pricing. You cannot be afraid to go up against the 800 billion other photographers that are out there. You can't be afraid because if you are, you're going to stay in the same spot and ultimately you're going to get worn out because more than likely,
Yeah.
even if you are ordering Amazon dresses, you still probably aren't making that high enough of a profit and you're going to end up drowning anyways. So why not take that risk and actually charge accordingly and invest in good quality stuff so that way you can start to build a better brand. These are all
If you don't
things
change
that
something, nothing changes.
exactly. And all of these things are just little stepping stones that lead to booking those clients that people reach out to me and they're like, if I just had one, I'd be fine. It doesn't work like that. I did step after step after step after step. I
Yeah.
constantly was upgrading my experience, the products, the artwork that I provide, my craft and my imagery. I was constantly working to provide a better experience. I just was. And people don't understand that that's what it takes to get to that level. And they either have the ability to make that change within themselves or they don't. And if they don't, I would put $1,000 on it right now that they will not last 5 years, if they even last two. And that's sad to me because
Yeah.
I truly believe that there is success that can be met for every single artist out there. But it's that fear that keeps everybody in that box. And unfortunately, the fear that photographers have as an industry affect the other vendors. It's affecting Miesto, it's affecting So Trendy, it's affecting even smaller boutiques well, especially smaller boutiques, baby prop stuff, backdrops. It's affecting all of the vendors because the photographers, instead of valuing, making an investment in something, they're trying to cut corners and buy, a cheap cloth backdrop or buy a fluff stuffer for a newborn baby on Amazon instead of going to the vendors. It's a shame really, but I understand both sides of it. I understand why photographers are doing that, especially if they're towards the beginning of their career, or maybe they're just
Yeah.
trying to rebrand and they don't necessarily have the funds right now. Where I have an issue is if they've been in the industry, if they've been a photographer, if they've been a business owner for, 2, 3, 4 years, why are you not trying to support these vendors in the
Yeah.
field that you photograph in? That's where I have an issue. And then with AliExpress, so I've definitely ordered items from AliExpress. I have to admit, it's mainly been more like fabric stuff that I found. So like I have this. I saw it being used over and over and over again. It's probably been about 2 years ago now, and the reason that I bought it is because you guys know I'm always hell bent on being like, I'm sick of seeing the same thing. I'm going to do something different with it. So I've had this fabric just sitting in my closet waiting for the right client to come along for probably a year and a half now. And the other things that I have ordered from AliExpress were things that could not be made from anybody else. And that's very few and far in between. So one of the things that I got from them was a dress made out of just tassels, and I couldn't find it anywhere else. So I did buy that from them too. And that's such a rare occasion though. So that's the other thing too, is I think another reason why a lot of vendors are kind of closing their doors is because the trends of styles, if you will, change so regularly that it
Yeah.
is difficult for a clothing line to keep up. So, and you guys know, you've been through Miesto and So Trendy and, Mama Bun, you've been there through all of them. But there was a time where sequins was very, very, very in. Do y'all remember that? It's been probably about 3 years ago. Sequins isn't in anymore. I mean, it's not that nobody ever uses them, but now what's in is asymmetrical things. And then having
Yeah.
those
Metallic, stretchy fabrics.
metallic stretch, like they were dipped in gold. Yes. And
Yeah.
then,
Liquid
the very
metallic.
large sleeves and the very minimalistic fitted skirts, those things, two pieces. Those things, and that's kind of the downside to it too, is that because styles are constantly changing and because fashion is always influenced by other things, we have actual influencers, we have celebrities, and whenever they wear something, that kind of just has such an impact on the fashion industry. So that's another reason why I think too, it's not that they couldn't keep up. I think it just gets tiring to try to keep up with the changes. So I think overall, with the amount of vendors that we see closing, it's not just one problem or two problems. I think it's a big group of issues that have finally compiled to a degree that they're just like, you know what, my passion for this is gone. I don't really want to continue to fight all of these things. And what I have noticed though, while it is devastating to us and to the photographers who do value them so much, I will say that I'm actually really happy for them, because life is so short that if you're feeling like something that you photography, dressmaking, art, if it's something that you love but you have lost your passion and you have lost your love for it for whatever reason, whether it's economy, fighting, the fashion changes, whatever it is, I think it's okay to say, you know what, we had an amazing run, I'm ready to go do something else now. So I'm extremely happy for them, because I know it's probably a big weight off of their shoulders. But for us, it's sad, because it's like we've known them for as long as we've been in business, and it's sad to see them go, and it's sad to understand the reasons why they're leaving, because a lot of it does have to do with the industry, the photography industry, and just them not valuing their products, which is
and they leave such a big hole behind, don't they? Like we need
absolutely,
something to fill that gap, and like there's nothing there. Like
absolutely.
I went to find, I needed a newborn headbands,
Yep.
and there was one company that we went, small business that we used, that we always used to buy from when we went to the newborn and portrait show.
Yeah.
Obviously that's gone now, we don't have the newborn and portrait show. I went to find them online, they weren't there, and I was like,
Gone.
well, who do I go to now?
We went through quite a
Oh,
few
it's
brands as well, trying to look for somebody, didn't we,
Yeah.
that we used to use, and they're just all gone.
Yep. And it's yeah, it is devastating. It, like you said, it just leaves a massive hole, because then you're frantically trying to find where to go, and there's really not anybody who used to have this same design that this specific vendor used to have. So I mean, it's terrible, but with the terrible part always comes some sort of positive. Wherever there is a need, somebody's going to see that need, and they're
Yeah.
going to fill that need. So I while it's a little sticky right now, I'm always trying to see the positive in situations. Like I said, I'm actually really happy for them, because I think, the weight is lifted from all of these stresses that have been going on for a while, especially since COVID began, like kind of caused a rift in most people's business. But I'm really excited to see the changes. I also think that it might encourage photographers to really kind of search within to see, is this something maybe I can find somewhere else? Is it something that I could maybe take an old dress or an old headband and maybe make something of my own that nobody's ever seen before? So I'm kind of excited to see if maybe the creativity of artists is
That's what we ended up doing.
Yeah, it was.
We had a dress in mind that we could not, for love nor money, find anywhere. So we crudely drew it out, argued about it, because what was in my head wasn't what was in Chrissy's head. We came up with an amalgamated design, and we went to a dressmaker who makes costumes for a living for
I love it,
like plays and whatever.
Yes,
productions.
I love that.
And she made us this black, like embezzled, not embezzled, what's the word, Christy?
Embellished.
or
embellished.
Bedazzled.
It was a word, isn't it? Embellished, like strapless gown, but then with a cape that had square shoulders with all these spikes and like jewels coming off it. And it was exactly what we had in our minds. And it was perfect and it was beautiful.
How amazing. And not only that, but you're now supporting somebody that's kind of local to you guys, right?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So like where there is a will, there is a way. So the people that can't recover from like these vendors leaving, you're probably going to see them start to close their doors as well. But for the people who really have the ability to kind of innovate and change and work with, now the reality is most people don't want to be making stuff on their own. They don't really have the time. So for me, I actually I enjoy, I don't like to make everything because, you know, my schedule's tight too. But for specific clients where, you know, not a dress that I can order is not going to fit what my vision is for them, I love to make stuff. I absolutely adore it. It's very creative for me. It's an outlet for me for sure. So I'm hoping that other artists, other photographers kind of get that creative feeling, and even if they don't have any intention of doing it forever, they're able to kind of dabble in that a little bit. And even if it's something as simple as like safety pinning one part of a dress to another part of a dress, so be it. Because I think if we're able to kind of get rejuvenated and find that creativity within ourselves, it will encourage photographers to again just focus on what they see and what they want to create, not what everybody else is creating. Because that is one thing that I will say too, is that you know, at the height of these vendors, the majority of these vendors doing, you know, phenomenally well, you know, 2018, 17, 2019, we saw a lot of the similar gowns, similar stuff. So
if I saw one more Coco from Katrina, I was like, oh my Jesus. Like it was everywhere. Every single photographer had a Coco. I was like, I don't want it. I do not want it.
I have used that gown twice, and it's still in my closet because I'm like, I can't put it underwater. That's like a death trap. But I'm like, maybe I can make it into something. So it's just sitting there. It's just sitting in my closet, just waiting for, you know, one of my visions to come to life after I meet my client. But yeah, I used it twice. After that, I was like, no more. Because it was
every time I opened the social media, it was like,
yes, the laying down
with thing
with their hair flowing on the cocoa. Yeah, no. I was checked out after that. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So like, it's why again, and I don't want to sound ungrateful for these vendors because I am so grateful for them and I love them so much. But knowing that this is coming from a place that they're okay with too, it makes me actually kind of excited to see where the industry will go now. Because, and of course,
it might bring fresh eyes in. It might bring a new vendor with fresh eyes that have got a new vision.
To be fair, when we were in Coventry for the Click Live Expo, they had a little mini market, what do they call it, prop market or something, and there was 2 Italian vendors, maternity vendors there, and their dresses were beautiful, weren't they?
Oh, they were. And I know I can't now either, but they were very kind of editorial and very different. And we were like, ooh, these are lovely. And they were just, it was nice.
I love that.
So hopefully
you can bet your bottom dollar that somebody's going to come out there creating some dresses for this industry. It's just a matter of like if and when kind of thing, but it's not so much an if, it's more of a when. So I'm like I said, I'm excited to see where it goes. I'm sad for them, but again, I'm also kind of happy because I know that this is something that they've wanted. And I don't look at them as failing. I look at them as they had a massive success, and now they're ready to do something else, and you know,
and they've left a massive legacy within the industry as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. For decades from now, So Trendy and Miesto is going to be talked about. Decades from now.
Yeah.
I mean, if not forever, because we will forever keep their names alive. So I'm very excited for them, but I'm so thrilled to see where the industry as a whole goes, because it is going to force a little bit of creativity. I see it kind of as like a weeding process, right? The people that have the ability to innovate and picture something else, or even just the ability to do some research and find somebody locally, they're going to go that way. Or then we're going to continue to have the people who keep ordering from the same websites where we keep seeing the same shit all the time, and that's eventually going to snuff out their business, because people don't want to see, potential clients don't want to see every single image that looks exactly the same. People want true good clients that want to invest money. They want to see your creativity. That's why they're coming to you. If they didn't care about the creativity, if they didn't care about the wardrobes, the posing, they would get an iPhone and a decent little ring light, and they would do that shit themselves. You know what I mean?
And how many times do we hear now, oh, do you know what? I trust you. I know you're going to do, I'm going to leave it with you. Like, I hear, like, I do the pre-sessions.
Absolutely. I mean, that's...
And I'll come back from a pre-session, and I'll come down and I go to Abigail, okay, so these are the colors, this is the kind of the feel of what we're doing, and she says she trusts us, and we just go with it. She's like, oh, okay.
That makes me so happy for you guys, because that's exactly how my business is, and I know what it feels like for me. So to hear you guys tell me that that's what you get too,
and these are not even local people either. These are people who travel a long way. They're like, oh, we found you on Google. I'm like, how are you finding me on Google, and how are you traveling this far and trusting us?
I love that, because that's what we're here to do. You know what I mean? And again, everybody has different goals. Everybody has different visions of how their career and how their job is going to go. But for me, we're kind of all peas in a pod, if you will. Our goal is truly to create something nobody's ever seen before, even though it's the same genre that we've been photographing in for years. So that just makes me so happy, because that's truly... And I think Abigail, I think you mentioned it earlier. You were like, to me, it sounds so exhausting to be a volume photographer. To me, what actually sounds worse is the fact that I would be photographing very similar things over and over and over again. So that is actually what drains me more than anything else. I'm a pretty high energy person, but what really gets my creative juices flowing is when I hear those beautiful words of, well, that's why I hired you. I trust everything that you say. And that's honestly, it's like 99% of my clients now. And that 1% isn't even really difficult to deal with. They're just like, oh, I already bought something, but if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. But normally what they bought, I love. And I'm like, no, let's bring it. I might twist it around a little bit, but bring it. So that's like that 1%. So I honestly can say that I'm so happy with where the creative freedom is in my career now. And I love to hear that for you guys too. It makes me so happy, because I know that y'all have a very similar mindset to me. So I know that that's what you guys have been wanting. And it's just, that makes me so happy. So, as far as vendors go, I'm excited to see what the future holds. There's definitely going to be a need. It's just a matter of when somebody steps up to fill that need. That's kind of all it's going to boil down to. And the legacy, I think we will always keep, So Trendy, Miesto, any of the backdrop companies that I have good relationships with that are closing their doors. Obesidon was one of them. I will always talk about them, because they truly were 100% a legacy. Which, just as a side note, and I don't want to... How long have I kept you? I'm gonna have to go pretty soon. I'm sorry. I will talk all day if you allow me. But back to just kind of like how the economy is. I've heard so much talk about, leads being down, bookings being down. And again, I was telling you earlier, I don't like to spend a lot of time on Facebook because it messes with you mentally. But when I am on there, I see a lot of negative, a lot of people complaining, a lot of people fear. There's a lot of fear of what's going to happen in the future. So to kind of somewhat end this on a very, very positive note, I think it's important that people realize that this is temporary. This is a very temporary situation.
It feels like a build in you.
Say that again.
It feels like a build in you, which is like there's lots of things being knocked down, but there's the building blocks are being put in place for something better.
Absolutely. And that's such a beautiful way to look at it. I mean, imagine, well, let's just picture a house, if you will. After the foundation is laid, after the home is built, what do we see, several months after the home is built? Sometimes we'll see little cracks in the wall start to form, and it's not because the house is bad, it's because the home is settling, but it's still something that needs to be fixed. So that's kind of how, and that's what I've been encouraging people and telling people about. This is a very temporary situation. Now, granted, I am very, I've worked very hard. I am very fortunate that I have the client base that I do. Have I noticed a dip in leads? Of course I have. Has it affected my numbers? No. So I'm fortunate in that sense. And even then, I don't really even like to use the word fortunate because I work my ass off. So it's with hard work, but I also don't want to discredit anyone who is also working their ass off, but is being affected by the economy and by people who are kind of clutching onto their purse strings a little bit tighter. But what they need to understand is that there is always going to be a need for photography. There's nothing that gets me in a bad mood quite like the people who are like, AI is going to replace us. We're not, nobody's going to need
They've
photographers.
clearly never used generative fill on Photoshop and had a Christmas tree put in instead of Christy. There's Christy holding a baby head. I fill it in and it's a Christmas tree every time.
Every time.
Exactly. And the thing about it is that, AI actually is extremely helpful to photographers. If we were to stop fighting the changes that are coming and instead embrace them and figure out how we can apply it to our business to make our lives easier, people wouldn't be complaining so much. So
I feel like that's
it's
another
just,
live for us, Karen. I feel
it
like we
is.
need to go live again soon and we'll talk about AI.
Yes, and let me make sure that I can attach it to my YouTube channel because
Yeah.
all of these topics are things people ask me regularly that like, and it needs to be out there. It needs to be out there whether they've been in the industry or whether they're new in the industry. These days and these times that we're seeing right now are so temporary. It's hard. And when you're struggling financially, and I think the other thing too that needs to be kept in mind is people sometimes get comfortable with the wages that they make. So it may not even necessarily be like a hard financial time. They're just not making as much as they were. And because of that, they're like, it's all going to hell. I don't know what I'm going to do. Take a breath, refocus, recenter yourself, and continue to build. Because I won't lie, it's not fun if you ever have to take a pay cut, or if you ever, if we're looking at corporate 9 to 5 jobs, nobody wants to take a pay cut. It's not like we willingly want to do that, but you also can't expect the economy and humans in general to stay perfectly the same all the time. There's going to be this in business, no matter what business you're in. I don't care what it is. Real estate. Everybody's like, man, these real estate people, they're making bank right now. No, there's a lot of real estate agents that are struggling right now. It doesn't matter what business you're in, there is always going to be, and I'm talking about even with the mega wealthy people, those people have ebbs and flows in their business as well. If we can't figure out a way to be content and sit in our discomfort as a business owner with what's going on around us, then we won't survive as a business. I can assure you, though, this time is going to come and go. The most important thing that anybody can do right now is to continue marketing. If you are in a really tight financial spot, use the free forms. If you have a budget for a marketing strategy, start running some ads. The reality is that you're going to have to spend some money to figure out what marketing strategy is going to work best for you. It's not going to just pop into your head. Even if you hire somebody, you're going to have to test multiple things. But there is always going to be a need for what we do as artists. That's not going anywhere. And anybody who says that it is just a Debbie Downer, and they're negative and they want to live in that negativity. I choose not to live in that negativity. I don't want to be there. I know that there is still so much potential out there. Even with my own business with underwater, I have had so many people interested in underwater. I barely even tap the market. So I know for a fact, as long as I keep myself marketed and I keep my business tight and neat, then I will continue to grow even in the underwater portraiture field. So that's just for every artist out there, no matter what genre of photography that they're in, just rest assured that your artistic vision is needed in this world. Don't give up. Don't let these hard times put you so down. Go outside for a little while, take a breath, focus on yourself, realize that this is temporary, and move past it. Take each day as it comes. And remember, it's a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a journey. We're running a marathon. We're not doing the 100-meter dash. So enjoy the journey. It's a fun journey as long as we can kind of take a step back and appreciate it. Yeah, it's a fun journey.
We literally said this the other day, didn't we, Christy? Like, as we were like, oh, when we're millionaires, but we're enjoying it. Even if we're not millionaires, we're still enjoying the journey. Like, we're living the life.
Absolutely.
If you told us 5 years ago we'd be here, we wouldn't have believed it. So
no, never in a million years. To be where we are now and to have experienced all the things that we have, like, it's mad. It's mad to think.
Oh, that makes me want to cry. Oh my goodness. Y'all might actually get me emotional on here because it's such a beautiful thing. Because and a lot of people don't believe me when I tell them you have the potential to make it to this point. It takes a lot of self-work to actually believe in yourself and to implement the things that I tell, or that they have learned, or that they picked up. It takes a lot of self-discipline, and it makes me so happy that y'all saw your potential in yourselves to be where you are now. And let me tell you something, if you want to be a millionaire studio, you will be a multi-millionaire studio. It's not a question of,
we will.
Well, exactly. It's not a question of can we. Look at where you've already come. Look at how far you've come in such a short period of time. I know to us as business owners, look, a year, 5 years, it feels like an eternity. But the reality is that is such a small block of time. And look at how far you've come. So it's not a question of, well, we aren't now. You will, as long as you continue to go the way that you're going. And it makes me so happy. This is the conversation that I needed for my soul. It just makes me so freaking happy. So I'm so sorry that I took up like an hour or 2 hours of your life.
An hour and 25 minutes, but it's been a pleasure every single minute.
It has. It always is, Karen.
It is always the best time.
If anybody's watching doesn't follow Karen already, all of your links are below in our description.
Yes, yes. Come follow. It's funny because I actually post more shorts now than I do anything else, just because I actually, what I do need to do is I need to do a live on my underwater sessions. I've gotten so many requests for those. It's just, it's such a hassle to try to be able to answer any questions or to handle that while I'm also going underwater at the same time. So I'm still trying to work on that, but it's funny because I've been posting way more shorts than anything else. But if people have questions about stuff, I try to address it in, a little bit of a longer video. Not quite this long. It's always easier when you're talking with somebody else to talk for, well, I don't know. I could probably talk to myself for an hour and a half. I don't know. But it's always a little bit more entertaining when you have other people to talk to. But
we'll definitely do this again soon.
Please, yes, because we do also need to talk about the Maternity and Newborn Summit.
I know. I feel like we've gone to talk to you about it so many times and I haven't got around to it.
It's okay. It's okay because as far as I know, I do believe that they are planning again for next year. But they still have quite a bit to kind of just organize to set the date for sure. Well, the date that I think they're looking at is July 21st and 22nd of next year. But I want to tell you all about it. I want to tell you the areas that it could improve as a conference, because I think it's always important to be honest about those things. But overall, it was a wonderful summit. It really was. And so I would love to talk to you guys about it. So yes, we'll have to.
We'll get some dates in the diary after this.
Yeah, not quite as long of a gap as it was from WPPI.
No.
But yes, I'd love to kind of talk about that too. So, all right. Well, I adore you guys so much. Y'all have made my month. Y'all have made my month with that last statement of you guys didn't realize how far you have come until you sit and look at it. And it just makes me so happy. That made my entire month. So onward and upward, ladies.
Yay.
We are just continuing to go onward and upward. I love it. And I adore you guys. Always.
See you soon.
Yes, absolutely. We'll talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Bye.